Welcome back to another Kerbal Space Program tutorial. Today I'm actually going to be teaching you how science works. Now, the first thing I would recommend you guys to do is to open up the beautiful wiki page that you see here. I'll also stick the links below in the description so you can have a better idea of how this works. Now, of course, since the career mode is introduced, though that being still in its basic form, I'm sure it's going to be enhanced and improved as time goes along. The principle is pretty much going to stay the same. That means when you do start your career mode, you're going to have a limitation of actual structures that you can build and technologies that you can use. And to get those technologies, you need to do science to actually get science points, and then in turn you can progress up your tech tree. So, initially, you need to open this up. This pretty much, of course, this is a massive ass spoiler warning because I'll probably spoil a few things in terms of the game itself. So, now, when you do open up the actual wiki, you do have a very, very nice breakdown, which I presume is going to be updated in terms of how this thing works. So, let me explain to you how science works. When you are in your rocket, and you let's say step out of your rocket, and then you right click your crew member and you tell him create a report, EVA report, because it's outside your capsule. He will create an EVA report, and then when you jump back into your capsule, he will put that report in the capsule. Now, the same thing when he jumps out of the capsule and you move around on the ground and you right click the Kerbal and you tell him take a ground sample, he will pick up that ground sample, and you go back to the actual capsule and then you enter the capsule. The ground sample will be in the capsule. Now, in terms of generating science, I'm just still trying to figure out a way how to break this down to you guys. We can start off with pretty much the basic stuff. So let's start off with looking at this actual layout. This is pretty much the only interesting or most important thing that you'll need. So if I go on the ground, I can pick up a surface sample. Of course, the surface sample is not available in the low atmosphere, upper, near, or outer space. So it means on the lower ground, I can pick up a surface atmosphere. So the question is, what the hell is a biome? So you have different types of terrains on Kerbal. You have different types of maybe locations on the moon, different types of terrains in other planets and moons as well. So for example, if you open up then the biome section, you will see that Kerbal actually has, it considers a launch pad a different type of terrain. The runway, the KSC, the Kerbal the center, actually has a different type: grasslands, ice caps, tundras, and mountains. So technically, if I jump back now, I can take a surface sample from every single different biome when I'm on the ground. It means I can take a surface sample from the KSC, from the runway, from the launch pad, from the grasslands, iceland, tundra, and every time I come back and I send that data to my actual headquarters or to the space center, I will receive science points for that. So technically, on ground, I can take samples as long as it's in a different biome. So biome, of course, you see it's broken down here. Again, you know, if this is going to spoil it for you, so if you don't want to know where the biomes are, you can just play it in the game. So that being said, the second thing, I'm going to get back to the biomes again. Let's just jump that's for surface samples. So for EVA reports, on the ground, I can have a different sample for the biome. So if I'm walking around on the ground and I go over the grassland, let's say I go on the North Pole and I step on it, I can make a different EVA report. Okay? Now, for the lower atmosphere and upper atmosphere, for the lower atmosphere, I can also do an EVA report. It means I can jump out and I can do an EVA report. Probably this won't be happening when you're in a rocket. You'll probably have to build some sort of contraption to be able to do this on the lower atmosphere, especially if the planet or moon you have has an atmosphere, because you can't step out EVA and do a lower atmosphere crew report in Kerbal, you know, unless you make a very interesting plane that you can hold on and still do the EVA report. Now, again, different reports for all the different biomes. So it means when I am, the most ideal thing would be to do is, I'm going to be jumping around quite a bit, is to bind all your sciences to kick off to a certain action group. Toggle it, remember? So jump down to my action groups and have a blast. Toggle. So The next thing is, once you bind all your science action groups, is when you click the action group, you just click create report, create report. I'll jump into the game and show you that. I'm just trying to break it down for you. So the EVA report can be done in lower atmospheres on different biomes. So I know I can do my EVA report on different locations of the planet, and in the upper atmosphere only once. It means once I reach the upper atmosphere, let's presume that's, I don't know, around 80 or 100,000, I don't know, in the atmosphere. So I think it's considered maybe around 30,000 could be considered upper atmosphere in Kerbal. To be honest, I'm not quite sure. I'd have to jump, right click, and test it out. But I think 30,000, above 30,000 is considered upper atmosphere. It only counts it as once. So once I'm in the upper atmosphere, my EVA report I can't redo my EVA report for the different biome I'm over. This is the thing. But if I'm near space, it means when I'm already in space and I'm over a different biome, so when I'm floating around Kerbal or having my orbit around Kerbal, and I'm over the grasslands, or I'm over the North Pole, or I'm over the KSP space program, I can jump out into space and do an EVA report, and it considers it as like a different biome, so it means I get full points. So if I jump out and I'm in space and I have a nice orbit around Kerbal, I jump out, and right below me is the desert. And when I right-click my actual Kerbal and tell him to do an EVA report, he'll actually tell you what you're over, what biome you're over. You know, you're above the grasslands below. So that's a very cool way to also know what biome you're over, or how to tell what a different biome looks like below you. So you can do that, of course, on different planets, different moons. So when you're outside, you can just jump out and right-click your Kerbal, tell him to do an EVA report, and he'll actually tell you what biome's below you, and you can remember that that's how it looks like. So that's one cool thing. So when you're when you're in very low orbit, I would say, or after the 37,000 or 38,000 meters, because you're technically in space, so then I can crazily click off my actual control group key for the EVA report and just keep sending reports like crazy. Again, you do that because every time you send a report, of course, the first report you get maximum science, and then it reduces. I would suggest you keep sending your reports until you get it down to 0.1. That's like really using it as much as possible. Now, the same thing applies to different things. Crew reports are done within the capsule. So when you right-click your capsule, you can create report. Same thing for all the other things. You know, that's why you just stick them to a control group. Now, for example, the mystery goo on the ground, you can do it with all the different types of biomes. But once I'm off the ground, I can only do it once. So over different biomes or over different areas, it will not count it as a new research. You know, like the first time you do it, you get a massive bonus, or like the total points. Let's say 10 points is the maximum you can get, but the second time I do it is 8. But if I go on top of the desert instead of doing it on top of the water, I won't get the 10 points maximum, because it's only once. It's showing it here. It doesn't count it as a different biome once I'm in the lower atmosphere. I hope that makes sense. This is the most important thing to understand. So then the rest is pretty much, you know, common sense. It pretty much breaks down what you can do. If it works over all different types of biomes, or if it doesn't, if it just works once. If it works once, then there's really no point doing it again. So for example, I know my mystery goo is I can control group my mystery goo with my EVA report, pretty much, because EVA report only in the upper atmosphere, I can only do it once, and then once I don't know, cycle that EVA report in the upper atmosphere, let's say 4 or 5 times until I get 0.1 science, there's no point, even if I'm above other biomes. So this is in a way that should, like, you know, help you in terms of putting control groups to some sort of sciences or separating some sciences by themselves. You know, also, I don't know, it would help maybe to log what type of science experiments or what type of complete science experiments you did. Maybe the game will do that for you later on in some locations, in some parts of the planets or moon, so you know. So if I, let's say, go into the moon, I know I already did all the EVA reports on the way there last time, all the crew reports, all the surface samples, so then I'm not going to bother controlling grouping these anymore, because as I progress in the career mode, now I'll have different experimental experiments that I can take with me. For example, the thermometer and the Science Junior 9001. So I can control group these and forget about the rest, because I don't want to do them again, since I'll get only 0.1 science, and that's a waste of time. I hope that's not too much information for you. But that pretty much breaks down in how this system works. Now again, keep in mind, initially I thought, and I was wrong, is that when I bring the experiments back to Kerbal, it means if I do the science in space and I come back with it, I get more points, but that's not true. It still penalizes you the same amount, so that might be changed, but so far I don't think it makes sense, because technically when you're making a science in space, the actual module that makes the science is in space, so obviously you get all the data you need, so there's really no point bringing it back. So really making your experiments in space and sending it through the radio or through your antenna in space, in comparison to bringing them back, you still get the same amount of points. So technically the advantage is, of course, sending them with the radio, because you can do multiple sciences a lot and a lot and a lot and a lot. So for example, the 9001, it might yield you a lot of points. You know, let's say, I don't know, the standard science points for doing the experimental 9001 on land, let's say, yeah, is 114 points. But doing, let's say, the crew report is maybe 14 points. Though the crew report will never have a penalty, because it's the crew report. Technically, you're just sending a signal from the capsule. You're just doing a crew report. All the other things have a penalty. For example, the 9001 probably has a very high penalty, 20%, but since you're generating so much science, so 20% out of 134 is still much higher than your standard crew report. So logically speaking, the higher up science experiments you have, the more science they will generate when you actually are the first time, or generally when you make that science experiments, it'll generate more science points than the previous science experiment. Well, that's how it should go. There might be, of course, higher penalties for some of them, but they generate so much more science that you still get more points in relation to the previous experiments or previous things you did before. I hope that answers your question. So let me just think if I forgot anything else. Of course, that goes without saying. The further away you are from Kerbal, the more science you get. So, for example, if I go to the moon, I get, let's say, I don't know, 125 for doing a surface sample. You know, now for doing the surface sample on the different parts of the moon, you know, I get, again, 125, 125, 125, 125, all the damn way. Now, if I move my ship all the way to Juna, and I do a surface sample, the same thing. Every different biome gives me a total maximum. So, the best thing to do is to do a surface sample, send it, jump back, do another surface sample, come back and send it again. You know, because again, it will degrade, but you still get science points. So 150 or 125, the first science you get, then maybe 100, then maybe 80, then maybe 50. You keep doing it until you get less. Now, the bad thing is with doing, for example, the surface samples, is you can't control group it, because you literally have to jump out, pick it up, come back into the capsule, send it, jump out, pick it up, come back into the capsule and send it. But for the other, for example, the experiments, you can pretty much control group them, because you don't really need to do anything with your Kerbal. Only the EVA report and the surface sample really needs to be manually controlled, because you really got to get out, you got to do it, you got to come back in. You know, so again, just to quickly summarize it up, the EVA, when you do it in space or whatever the hell you do it, it'll actually tell you what ground or what biome you're over, ground you're over. Okay, if there's a biome written here, it means you can do it on various different locations. So for example, if I'm, I don't know, on Juna, I know that I can do my H2 thermometer only once. It doesn't really make a difference on top of what location or what type of ground above Juna. If I'm on the North Pole of Juna, South Pole of Juna, it doesn't really matter. It only happens once. So on Juna, I know my thermometer, I can just cycle it once. It means the first time I do it, I get, I don't know, 20 points, second time, 15, 10, 11, 12, 1, and that's it. Then it's done. Then the thermometer is pretty much done. So you tick that off on your checkbox. Then the thermometer for Juna is pretty much dead. That's it. But I know if I'm on Juna, on the ground, I have biomes. So technically, what you should do then is stick your thermometer on an actual rover on the ground, and make that rover drive across all of Juna to the different types of biomes. That'll probably take forever, but that is one way of doing it. You know, on the ground you can get different types of results for that. To truly get every single possible science you can get from it is to get that thermometer on the ground to every single type of different biome or different ground. You know, I just call it ground, it makes more sense. So there you go, that pretty much summarizes this in terms of what you need. Now, what else is there? I think I could just jump in and give you a quick example, so we can see how that is. So here we are now inside the actual game. I created a whole new, you can say, career mode just to show you guys. Now I do have my, you can say, custom landing struts or custom landing gear that I make from the beginning, and you see I did action group my capsule to do the crew report. So that's pretty much it. Now let's launch the game. Now this is what happens when you actually initially start the game. technically you could abuse the system, which I wouldn't recommend, because since you did check out the list on the biome sheet, you know that if I go to the runway and I take a ground sample, where the hell's the damn runway? There it is. And I take a ground sample, it considers it as a different ground sample. If I take a ground sample here, it considers it as a different ground sample. And in the water, that's a different biome as well. Remember that? So the KSC, the water, the runway, all the biome list on the wiki page, it pretty much breaks down what is considered a different biome. The grasslands, I'm sure once I get out of KSC, it means the green, the dark green, that's considered not KSC, so that's a different ground sample. So that's 1, 2, I know that's 3, and that's 4. So technically I have 4, and maybe even the beach is considered, so that could be 5. Now, right off the bat, I can start sending my actual EVA report or crew report. Crew report, I can send it now. EVA is I can send it. Remember the actual sheet? I printed it out, so I pretty much know that my EVA report works on all the biomes. So let's just go EVA. This is again using and abusing it just a little bit. So then what I can do now is right-click EVA report, and you can't transmit, of course. It means you gotta enter back in, and then I can transmit the data. So then I can right-click. I should have actually transmitting data. There you go. And of course it does use your science. So technically what I'm going to do now is get out on EVA, because it does use a lot of your power. So another thing that I would recommend, or another tip, what I'll tell you guys to do is when your engines are on, you actually generate power. So the best thing initially in the beginning is to start sending your reports while your engines are on max power, so you're still generating power. So technically now I can't send another EVA report. And talking about EVA reports, you can store multiple EVA reports as long as they're from different biomes. So if I'm flying over KSC and I do an EVA report, it's considered as one. Remember, if you look at the sheet, only on the low atmosphere and on the near space it considers it's counted, it counts the EVA report for a different biome. So it means if I'm flying low above KSC and then above the green grasslands above the water, that's different biome, and I can store all those in the actual capsule, you know. But once I get to upper atmosphere, it only counts it once, so it doesn't really make a difference if I'm on a different biome over a different land, terrain, biome. That's whatever I call it, terrain, they call it biome. So yeah. So now the trick is now here is I can abuse it, as I said, I can do all that, but let's try to stay as close as possible to the actual reality in some form or way. So let's actually crank up our engines, and what I want to do is I want to try to launch it somewhere there. You know, if I can remember which way it is. Crap. Revert flight. Started from the beginning. I didn't stage it properly with my parachute, so I did mess that one up. So let me stage it properly with my parachute this time. It's a little bit funny. And I'll do my EVA reports. And I'm back, and now a few things. It seems that getting the EVA report doesn't always work. He does jump, drop, fall off, so I guess that obviously does prevent you to abusing this a little bit more in the beginning. So anyways, you can't really do much because you really have no power. So as you see, one EVA report pretty much drained 3/4 of my power, if not more. So let's crank this beautiful ship up. Let's of course rechange my staging. That was the main issue. And let's head off. Let's try to at least get the green patches. Like that I can even get a ground sample while I'm there. So, no, let's do it like that. Let's really try to get there. Okay, now while I'm doing this, I'm going to be sending my report, my crew report. Shite. My crew report. Crap. Sending crew report. Not enough electricity. Hold on. There we go. Okay, there we go. Crew report, now we're at 0.2, you see. And I don't know if I want to risk it to go EVA still. I don't. Science crew report. Ah, because I'm on top of. You saw it now. I have 3.5 because I'm on top of a different biome. Not enough electric charge. See, now here's the thing. If I'm gonna land now, hold on. If I'm gonna land now with my parachutes, and I want to take a surface sample, I need to get to my capsule to send it. And I can't send it because I don't have enough power. But if I can land with my capsule and get the surface sample in the capsule, so when I recover my ship, I will get the science, the surface sample science that I got from the actual thing. So let me release my parachute. Let's slow it down. But we did do pretty good in the beginning. Not a lot, but we did do pretty well. So let's see. Actually, I can recover my Kerbal, by the way. So yeah, we can do that. So that's exactly what I'll do. I can recover my Kerbal. I don't know why the hell I forgot about that. So this is the first thing you do. So let's just land. We're at 12. We're really fast, so I think we're going to damage it. Yeah, there we go. There we go. Now, before I continue, another thing. If you're going to have your GUI containers or other science containers attached, mainly GUI containers in the beginning attached, and you fall over, if you can't right-click the container, it means the container is damaged. So that's a good thing to know in case you are trying to, when you want to recover it. So if you can't right-click the containers, maybe you fall off, but it doesn't mean that that fall over. I mean, your shuttle will fall over, but it doesn't mean that you still can't recover and send it all. But if you fall over, check all the containers by right-clicking on them. And if you can't right-click on them, it means they're damaged. So I suggest you reload your quick save or redo it again. Otherwise, the containers that contain the most science on the way down, or have some science, but they shouldn't because you should transmit them, will be damaged, and they won't be recovering that data from them. Now, another cool thing is the recovery button is directly from here, so I can recover directly from here if I want to do that as well on the top part. So that's another thing that I would like to mention to you. Now, there was one more thing though I did forget. Ah yeah, now I remember. The science you get from the experiments, for example, you right click your goo, and for example you have two, usually I have 2 goo containers, so I can multiply send 2 experiments at the same time, since you got to do them a couple of times till you get 0.1 science. So since you get multiple containers, you'll notice when you take that sample from both the containers, the actual science quantity will be the same, because it considers it that there's always a chance to lose the science. So that's why it initially gives the total value, the same value for all the science, even if you have multiple, because sometimes it might not get there, so it could be 0. So it considers the maximum science points of the actual science reaching, because maybe the first one you send it'll reach, maybe the second one you send won't reach. So that's why it always shows the maximum. Well, that's what I presume. So, and this pretty much wraps it up. So what I want to do before I go is, I can of course jump out, hopefully he won't die, and fall to the ground, and I can recover my Kerbal as well. Fall to the ground, right click him, of course, take a surface sample, okay, keep data, and now of course I can't get up, but it doesn't mean I can't recover him. What I would do is switch to my ship. Since you don't have him in the ship, it means you can't do the actual report anymore. Anyways, I don't have enough power to do the report, so that means I'm pretty much done. So what I'll do now is go to the Space Center, or I could just recover here. So recover all the science and see what I got. I'm not sure if it just recovers both or just one. So EVA report while flying, you see, it gives me 3.4 science. It gives me 5 science for recovering the craft. I got 18 science. Okay, that's done. Let's see, maybe I still do have the Kerbal on the ground. Yeah, Jebediah Kerbal. Let's recover him as well. And there we go, we get 9 science for the ground sample, which of course I did on the grasslands, you see. So that's considered as the grasslands, the one right outside KSC. And of course, if I look at my graph, which I have printed out in front of me, the one from Wiki, which I'd recommend you guys print it out as well, the graph tells me that the ground samples can be from different biomes, so I can jump to all different types of biomes, grassland, whatever, hilllands, North Pole, South Pole, and take different samples from those as well. So I have 27 science just to start off with, and that pretty much wraps it up. If you guys want to see more in terms of this science, I would suggest, it won't be up yet, but it should be. I'm gonna stick on my EVE mission, my career EVE mission. That's when I sort of get the hang of things, and you'll see I really like absorb science like insane. Like I actually figured it out that this is the way of doing it. So literally on the way up, on the way down, on the way everywhere, I'm control grouping my science keys like insane, and I get a shitload of science. So that pretty much should help you out. I think I get it around 1,600 just for a pass by of EVE, not really much. So, but a decent amount of science. I hope this guy's helped you out. As always, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. Take care and happy gaming. Bye. And one last thing, I am making actually my own game. So do visit me on DMGames.eu and take a look at it. See ya.